Let me start with a truth. Two people can stand in the same storm. One curses the rain, the other learns to dance in it. Same storm, different mindset, different life. Negativity is everywhere. On the news, on social media, in the office, sometimes in your own home. And if you're not careful, it will slowly become the voice inside your head. But here's the powerful truth. Negativity does not control you. Your response does. Today, I'm going to share 3 secrets that will not just help you survive negativity, but rise above it. The first secret is guard your mind like it's sacred. Protect it as the control center of your entire life. Think about this for a moment. You would not leave your front door wide open at night. You would not hand your house keys to a stranger and say, "Come in, take whatever you want." Yet every single day, many of us do exactly that with our minds. We allow random opinions, harsh comments, angry news, and other people's fears to walk straight in and rearrange our thoughts. Then we wonder why we feel anxious, why we feel heavy, why we feel distracted. Your mind is not just a thinking machine. It is the command room of your destiny. Every decision begins there. Every dream is shaped there. If the command room is filled with noise, confusion becomes normal. Negativity rarely attacks loudly at first. It whispers. It sounds reasonable. You're behind. You're not good enough. Look at everyone else doing better. These thoughts don't shout. They sit quietly in the corner and repeat themselves until they feel true. And if you don't guard your mind, you start believing them. I once met a man who had a good job, a supportive family, and strong skills. But every day at work, he listened to one coworker who constantly complained, "The economy is bad, the boss is unfair, nothing ever works." Within months, this man who once felt grateful began to feel trapped. Nothing in his life had changed. Only the voice he allowed into his mind had changed. That is how powerful influence is. Guarding your mind does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing what deserves space in your thoughts. There is a difference. If someone gives you constructive feedback, that is growth. If someone constantly criticizes without purpose, that is noise. If you watch the news to stay informed, that is awareness. If you watch it for hours and absorb fear, that is damage. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind every day? Because what you feed grows. If you feed doubt, doubt grows. If you feed courage, courage grows. The mind is fertile soil. It does not judge the seed. It simply grows what is planted. Morning is especially powerful. The first 30 minutes after you wake up are like wet cement. Whatever falls on it leaves a mark. If the first thing you do is check your phone and scroll through arguments, bad headlines, and comparisons, your mind starts the day on defense. Your body wakes up tense, your thoughts feel rushed. But if you begin with silence, with intention, with a positive message, or a few minutes of gratitude, something shifts. You feel steady, you feel centered. The outside world has not changed, but your internal world has. And that changes how you walk into the day. There was a young woman who struggled with constant self-doubt. She believed she was not confident enough to speak up in meetings. She thought others were smarter. Every time she made a mistake, she replayed it in her mind for hours. One day, she made a simple rule. For every negative thought about herself, she would pause and question it. Is this fact or is this fear? Slowly, she started replacing harsh inner comments with balanced ones. Not fake praise, just truth. Over time, her voice became stronger, not because the world changed, because she stopped allowing her mind to attack itself without challenge. Guarding your mind sometimes means guarding it from you. Pay attention to the people around you. Energy is contagious. Sit with someone hopeful. and you start imagining possibilities. Sit with someone bitter and you start noticing problems. This does not mean you abandon people who are struggling. It means you are aware, you create boundaries, you limit exposure, you choose environments that stretch you instead of shrink you. If you spend hours with those who mock ambition, you will slowly lower your own standards. If you surround yourself with those who value growth, you begin to rise. Influence is subtle, but it is powerful. Guarding your mind also means being careful with comparison. Social media can be a highlight reel of other people's victories, promotions, vacations, perfect smiles. If you are not careful, you will measure your everyday life against someone else's best moment. And that comparison steals joy quietly. Remember, you are seeing a small frame, not the full story. You do not see their struggles, their doubts, their sleepless nights. When you guard your mind, you remind yourself that your path is unique, your timing is different, your growth is personal. Comparison fades when clarity grows. Most importantly, understand this: you become what you repeatedly think about, not occasionally, repeatedly. If you constantly rehearse failure in your mind, you will hesitate in real life. If you constantly imagine progress, you will act with more confidence. The mind follows patterns. Break unhealthy patterns. Create new ones. Read words that strengthen you. Listen to voices that elevate you. Spend time in reflection. Ask yourself better questions. What can I learn? How can I improve? What am I grateful for today? These small shifts may seem simple, but simple does not mean weak. Simple, repeated daily, becomes power. The second secret is turn pain into power. Transform every wound into fuel for growth. Pain is not the enemy. It feels like it. Yes, it burns. It embarrasses. It keeps you awake at night. But pain is information. It is a signal that something matters to you. When someone criticizes your work and it hurts, that pain is revealing your desire to be excellent. When rejection stings, it is exposing your longing to be seen. The problem is not the pain, the problem is what you do next. Do you sit in it or do you shape it? Most people try to escape pain immediately. They distract themselves. They blame others. They scroll. They complain. They numb. But pain that is avoided does not disappear. It waits. It grows quietly. Then it shows up later as anger, insecurity, or fear. I once knew a young athlete who was cut from his college team. He told everyone the coach was unfair. For months he repeated that story. They didn't see my talent. But one day, he watched a recording of his own performance. He saw his lack of discipline. He saw moments where he slowed down. That realization hurt even more than the rejection. But that second pain was different. It was honest. And honesty is powerful. Turning pain into power begins with ownership. Not self-blame. Ownership. There is a difference. Self-blame says, I am useless. Ownership says, I can improve. One destroys you, the other builds you. When you own your response, you take back control. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift is small in words, but massive in impact. Because the moment you ask better questions, your mind begins searching for better answers. Consider a woman who was publicly criticized during a presentation. Her voice shook. She forgot her points. Later, a colleague made a sharp comment in front of others. She went home humiliated. She could have decided she was not made for leadership. Many would. Instead, she recorded herself speaking every evening. She studied her posture. She practiced breathing slowly. She asked for feedback from someone she trusted. The next time she stood in front of a room, She was not fearless, but she was prepared. That earlier embarrassment became her training ground. The same moment that could have broken her strengthened her. Pain can also refine your character. Think of metal placed in fire. It does not enjoy the heat. But without heat, it remains weak. When someone betrays you, it hurts deeply. Trust feels shattered. Yet in that experience, you learn boundaries. You learn discernment. You become wiser about who deserves access to your inner world. You begin to value loyalty more. That kind of pain shapes maturity. It makes you less naive, but not bitter, if you choose carefully. But here is the danger. Pain can make you hard, and hard is not the same as strong. Hardness pushes people away. Strength stands firm without losing compassion. So when you are hurt, pause, feel it fully. Do not pretend it does not matter. Write it down. Speak about it to someone safe. Process it. Then decide, will this make me smaller or will this make me sharper? You always have that choice. Always. There was a small business owner whose first store failed within a year. He had invested his savings. When it closed, some people whispered that he was careless. For weeks, he avoided social gatherings. The shame was heavy. But instead of quitting, he analyzed every mistake. Poor location, weak marketing, no emergency fund. 2 years later, he opened a second store, this time smaller, smarter, and more focused. Said, the lessons from failure became his blueprint. If the first store had succeeded easily, he would have repeated those hidden mistakes on a larger scale. Failure saved him from future disaster. Pain became protection. Sometimes the deepest pain is personal. A broken relationship, a dream that did not happen, a season of loneliness. In those moments, it feels like your identity is shaking. You question your worth. You replay conversations in your mind. But even here, there is hidden strength waiting. When a relationship ends, you learn more about your needs, your standards, your patterns. You see where you ignored red flags. You see where you gave too much. That clarity, though painful, prepares you for healthier connections later. It is growth disguised as grief. Understand this clearly. Pain is energy, and energy can move in two directions. It can turn inward and become self-doubt, or it can move outward and become drive. The difference is decision. When someone underestimates you, you can shrink, or you can train harder. When life delays your success, you can complain, or you can prepare. Every scar carries a story, and every story can either be an excuse or a source of strength. The moment you choose to build from your wounds instead of hiding them, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing yourself as damaged. You start seeing yourself as de-weeping. The third secret is build inner validation. Anchor your worth within so no outside voice can shake it. Most people live like open scoreboards. Every comment becomes a point. Every compliment lifts them. Every criticism drops them. Their mood rises and falls based on who is watching, who is clapping, who is approving. That is exhausting. It is like trying to sail a boat while handing the steering wheel to strangers on the shore. One person shouts left, another shouts right, and you keep turning hoping someone will say, "Good job." But deep down, you feel lost. Because when your value depends on applause, silence feels like rejection. Inner validation begins when you stop asking the world for permission to feel worthy. Think about that. How often do you wait for someone to say, "I'm proud of you," before you allow yourself to feel proud? How often do you hold back your ideas because you are unsure how they will be received? That hesitation is not weakness, it is conditioning. From childhood, many of us were trained to seek approval. Good grades meant praise. Good behavior meant rewards. Slowly, we learned that love comes after performance. And now, as adults, we carry that pattern into our careers, our relationships, even our dreams. I once met a man who was talented at writing. He had notebooks filled with powerful thoughts, but he never shared them. Why? Because he feared they were not good enough. He would show a page to a friend, watch their facial expression carefully, and immediately judge himself. If they looked confused, he felt ashamed. If they did not respond with excitement, he assumed he lacked skill. Years passed like this. One day, he decided to write daily and publish without asking anyone's opinion first. At first, the response was small, a few reads, a few comments, but something changed inside him. He began to measure success by consistency, not applause. That shift freed him. When you build inner validation, you create a private standard. You ask yourself, did I give my best today? Not, did they notice? You focus on effort, growth, and integrity. Imagine finishing a long day of work. No one praises you, no one thanks you. Yet you know you acted with honesty, you know you improved. That quiet satisfaction, that is inner validation. It is steady. It does not swing wildly with public opinion. It feels calm, solid, real. This does not mean you ignore feedback. Feedback is useful, but you filter it. You do not swallow every opinion whole. You examine it. You ask, is this coming from wisdom or from insecurity? Not everyone who criticizes you understands your journey. Not everyone who praises you sees your full potential either. Some will underestimate you. Some will overestimate you. If you let both control you, you will constantly adjust your identity to fit the room. And that is a painful way to live. A young professional once told me she felt anxious before every meeting, not because she lacked preparation, but because she feared looking foolish. She would rehearse sentences in her mind again and again. After meetings, she replayed her words, searching for mistakes. One evening, she asked herself a different question. What if my goal is not to impress, but to contribute? That one change shifted her focus outward. She stopped chasing approval and started offering value. The anxiety did not vanish overnight, but it softened because she was no longer performing for acceptance. She was participating with purpose. Inner validation also grows when you keep promises to yourself. Small promises: wake up when you say you will, finish what you start, speak kindly about yourself when you fail. Each time you follow through, you build trust within, and trust is powerful. If you cannot rely on yourself, you will constantly look for reassurance from others. But when you prove to yourself that you are disciplined, that you are resilient, that you are improving, confidence becomes internal. It is no longer borrowed, it is built. There will be moments when people misunderstand you, when your intentions are questioned, when your efforts are overlooked. In those moments, pause, breathe, remind yourself of your truth. You know your character, you know the work you have done in silence. Not everything valuable is visible. Roots grow underground before a tree is admired above ground. If a tree demanded applause before growing, it would never reach the sky. Growth often happens quietly. Respect that quiet process in your own life. Sometimes the hardest part of building inner validation is facing your own inner critic. That voice can be harsh. It remembers every mistake. It compares you to others. It whispers that you are behind. But ask yourself, whose voice is that really? Is it an old teacher, a past partner, a parent? Over time, we absorb external judgments and replay them as our own thoughts. Breaking that pattern requires awareness. When that inner critic speaks, respond gently but firmly. I hear you, but I am learning. Speak to yourself as you would to a friend who is trying their best. There was an older man who changed careers at 45. Many people doubted him. Some laughed softly. He felt embarrassed at first, sitting in classes with younger students. But each evening, he reminded himself why he started. Not to impress them, not to compete, but to fulfill a calling he had ignored for years. He celebrated small milestones, passing a test, understanding a concept, completing a project. Years later, when he succeeded in his new field, the same people who doubted him offered praise. But by then, the praise felt secondary. He had already validated himself through courage. Building inner validation is a quiet rebellion. It is choosing self-respect over approval. It is standing firm in your values, even when no one is watching. It is allowing yourself to feel proud without broadcasting it. And when you live this way, negativity loses its grip because criticism cannot define you, silence cannot diminish you, and applause cannot inflate you. You remain steady, grounded, certain of who you are becoming, even when the world is unsure. And now, pause for a moment. Look at your life as it is. The noise, the pressure, the opinions, the setbacks, the expectations. None of it disappears overnight. The world will still speak, people will still judge, storms will still come, but something inside you has shifted. You understand now that your mind is not a public space. It is sacred ground. What enters it shapes everything that follows. You understand that pain is not a verdict. It is raw material. It can harden you or it can refine you. And you see clearly that your worth cannot be rented from the outside. It must be built from within. This is not about becoming untouchable. It is about becoming steady. There is a quiet strength in a person who chooses their thoughts carefully. There is deep maturity in someone who learns from wounds instead of hiding them. There is real confidence in a person who no longer needs constant approval to move forward. You may still feel doubt sometimes. That is human. You may still face criticism. That is life. But now you know where your center is. It is not in the comments, not in applause, not in comparison. It is in your discipline, in your growth, in your private integrity. And when you walk back into your daily routine, into your work, your relationships, your responsibilities, you will carry something different. Not noise, not anger, not the need to prove. You will carry awareness. You will carry intention. You will carry calm determination. Let others react. Let others rush. Let others seek validation from every corner. You stay grounded. Because once a person learns to guard their mind, transform their pain, and anchor their worth within, negativity may still knock, but it no longer moves the foundation. And when your foundation is steady, your life becomes steady. Not perfect, not easy, but steady. And that is strength that lasts.